Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Auburn Energy Committee meeting being held Monday, March 27th. It is now called to order at approximately 5:38 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcasted by Local Access Programming. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight recording tonight's meeting? There being none, let's move to the first agenda item. We have Christina Rohrabacher here from Homeworks Energy. Christina, would you like to share your presentation with us?
Absolutely. So Homeworks Energy and the Town of Auburn are working together to help the Town of Auburn reach.
Can you move to the podium?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the microphone.
So Homeworks Energy and the Town of Auburn are working together to promote the Mass Save program and to also help Auburn reach its goals for the National Grid Community Initiative grant. So I'm just going to very quickly go through what Mass Save is, how Homeworks Energy relates to it, and why partnerships are so important in getting this information across. So this is a presentation that we did for a workshop. So that is something that we can also host here in Auburn. We can have energy workshops, energy efficiency workshops. We can do them in conjunction with solar, any kind of renewable energy too. They tend to work together really well. So Mass Save, what is Mass Save? It's the state of Massachusetts' awesome energy efficiency program. It's a big part of why we were ranked first in the nation for the 6th year running. And California just tied us for the first slot this past year. So we're really lucky to live in a state that has this. So Mass residents who pay National Grid, Eversource, or Columbia gas bill pay into the program each month. And what do you get? You get no-cost energy-saving devices, various incentives and rebates that are also available for heating and cooling equipment, appliances, and insulation. So where does Homeworks Energy fit into this? What does my company do, and how are we part of the Mass Save program? Well, we perform the home energy assessments, and we're currently performing about 1,500 assessments per month, giving us the capacity to be able to assist you guys in reaching your goals. And we're all reducing our impact environmentally as well. So this slide seems to not have translated very well, but step one for the home energy assessment is the combustion safety test, and this is testing any combustion equipment for both safety and efficiency. Carbon monoxide levels, ambient levels of carbon monoxide as well. Draft on atmospheric systems. So basically, we're testing all of this equipment for efficiency as well as safety. Just a few weeks ago, one of our specialists detected dangerously high levels of carbon monoxide in a homeowner's home and was able to bring that to their attention, get them out of the home that day, and get somebody in there to fix their heating system. So to me, the safety aspect of it is something that's often not talked about a lot, but I think is one of the most important pieces. So these are some of our Building Performance Institute certified specialists. Anyone who is a home performance contractor for the Mass Save program, all of their specialists have to be BPI certified. So step two would be going into the basement. So we're inspecting insulation and air sealing. There's a lot more detailed information in this presentation that I'll go over, such as fiberglass versus polyiso, air quality, moisture concerns, of course, that could be a breeding ground for mold and mildew. And actually, I did want to stop on this. In terms of air quality, did you know that 40% of the air that we breathe in our homes comes up from our basement? So just think about your basement for a minute, what's down there, and the quality of that air. So that is something that we're helping to look at as well. Stack effect, right? This has a lot to do with insulation. So air comes in from the bottom of the house, and of course, because heat rises, it goes up and creates the stack effect. So that's why insulating the ceiling of your basement, as well as the floor of your attic are the most important pieces, right? Because you're stopping that flow of air from escaping your house. We'll also check walls, windows, and doors. So we're looking at how much insulation is in the walls, what type of insulation, drafts, how are your doors and windows performing, because there are incentives for Mass Save for replacing single pane inefficient windows with more efficient ones. Weather stripping and door sweeps, that's something that we'll do at no cost with air sealing. So air sealing is something that is totally no cost for anyone that is eligible, meaning they're paying for this program each month in their utility bill. Attic and knee walls. So we're going to go up into the attic. We're going to check insulation levels up there. So we're also looking for air sealing, the access to the attic, right? Whether you have a walk up or in your ceiling. So we will create a custom cover for that as well. Insulation levels, proper ventilation. Ventilation, of course, is really important when we're talking about sealing up your home with all this air sealing and insulation. Air sealing, so this is basically just showing you where air sealing needs to happen, and that's basically wherever the top of a wall meets a ceiling. There's always a gap there, and that part needs to be air sealed as well, and that's what it looks like. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. And we also will air seal around wiring and pipes that also go into the attic. And of course the attic access, basically just a hole in your ceiling that goes into your attic that air is escaping through. So unless you have a box like this, so we'll build a custom box, you're gonna have air escaping. Insulation, we've seen this stuff before, but this is a demonstration to show when insulation is not installed properly. And this is what the most common insulation that we use looks like. So this is dense pack blown in cellulose. So basically it's made out of recycled newspapers. So it's, environmentally friendly, but it's also treated with a non-toxic flame retardant. So it's also going to help prevent fires. Just more photos showing how air can flow up into the attic and through the attic. Knee walls, again, not going to get too in-depth here, but proper ventilation is vital for ensuring that there isn't going to be a buildup of moisture and therefore mold, and which can also lead to health issues. So again, the health and safety aspect of this is often overlooked, but I think it's important that we emphasize it, and I think that that's a huge selling point for customers. I mean, selling point isn't the right word considering they've already paid for it and it's not going to cost them anything at the time. And then, of course, ice dams. We've probably all seen this. So basically the heated air is escaping and it's causing the snow to melt, but then, of course, it refreezes. So that causes a lot of structural issues, but that can be mitigated with proper ventilation, proper air sealing, and proper insulation. Propavents, that's another item that folks might also get. Infrared camera, right? So we use an infrared camera specifically in the winter months, mostly because the difference between the indoor air temperature and the outdoor air temperature has to be at least 30 degrees to get meaningful readings. So it can also work in the summer too, depending on how hot it is outside and how much somebody air conditions. So, we can use the infrared camera around outlets and see if an outlet's really hot, and that could indicate that too much electricity is being sent to that outlet. Same here, and then same with the electrical box. So we'll do that on the electrical box, and you can see if there's something going on here. It could mean faulty wiring, and it could mean that you're using more electricity than you thought, and that could be driving up your bill. That's a cat. I also, every once in a while, take the infrared camera home and use it on my animals. And then the biggest step is step 5, right? This is the last thing, second to last thing that we'll do. Instant savings measures. So what does that mean? So it means LED light bulbs, it means programmable thermostats, smart power strips and shower aerators or low flow shower heads. We like to say shower aerators because people associate low flow with no pressure, even though that's not the case here. So we're no longer installing CFL light bulbs at all. We're only installing LED light bulbs, which is really exciting. They use not that much less electricity than CFLs at the moment, but LEDs last far longer, and they don't produce as much heat. And then we give a personalized report to the person when we're in the resident's home. So this report not only shows everything that we've installed that day and the value of everything that was installed at no cost to them, but also gives them recommendations for other work that they could do that could also save them money. So we're modeling the home. We're also comparing the current conditions to proposed recommendations. So that's of course based on an average, and everybody's home is different, and it's all based on it's also based on behavior. So we give a cost and savings analysis, and then the payback period. So this is an example of the recommendations that we would give. So each line item is a different item, but as you can see with that top line says perform air sealing. So it says estimated cost 506, incentive or rebate is 506, and that's because it's always no cost for qualified air sealing. So the customer doesn't have to pay anything out of pocket. They've estimated annual energy savings at $100, and the payback, of course, is immediate. But as you move down, you can see the first line under weatherization. So this second part says attic floor open blow cellulose 11 inches. So basically that's 11 inches of cellulose that's going to be blown into this person's attic. And it has estimated cost. I'm not sure why the incentive or rebate isn't there, but you can see at the bottom that the incentive or rebate is $1,300, and the total cost of the project is $1,700, meaning the customer only pays $434 out of pocket for this, which dramatically shortens that return on their investment. So now in 1.5 years, it's already paid for itself. Health and safety, of course, we've been over this. They're trained to, our specialists are always trained to keep an eye out for things as they're moving through the house. So, they perform the combustion safety test, but after that, they're constantly looking for other things, whether it's faulty wiring or structural issues. So we've had problems where we couldn't install insulation in somebody's attic because the floor joists were too far apart, so we couldn't actually even walk into the attic, and that's actually a mass save requirement, right? That's not HomeWorks Energy deciding that it's not safe. It's we're not allowed to do this because that's what the program dictates. Carbon monoxide, mold and mildew, asbestos, knob and tube wiring, structural concerns, and rodent and pest damage. So with asbestos and knob and tube wiring, we can actually address those in-house. So we have electricians and a team of asbestos abatement folks who will actually help the customer walk through these, because if somebody has one of these issues, they can't move forward with insulation work or air sealing work. And again, it's because we can't seal up a house with dangers to air quality. The average homeowner can they receive $400 worth of instant savings measures, so those light bulbs and those thermostats and the power strips, and on average that saves an additional $600 annually. So just from those that one day of getting that assessment, folks are able to save a lot of money. And they can save an additional $600 from air sealing and insulation projects. Heating and cooling projects, you can replace an inefficient gas boiler. So we have the early boiler replacement program. So if a boiler is more than 30 years old, they're heavily incentivized to replace it with something that's more efficient. And then, of course, the heat loan, which is one of my favorite parts of the program because it's actually a zero interest loan for up to $25,000 so that folks can actually go through with this work. We have a list of lenders that provide these loans for folks, and we actually help the customer work through that paperwork. We help them with their deadlines, and we help them send in that paperwork to the appropriate places so that they can move through the program more quickly. And of course, there's always more rebates, like $200 to recycle your refrigerator and other things like that. Yeah, that's basically it. But the town of Auburn, it has the opportunity to get a grant from National Grid. I'm sure you guys are aware of that, and so we've partnered up to help folks achieve those goals. So, yeah.
Christina, can you speak to, in regards to the community outreach, what does HomeWorks do in order to help the town of Auburn hit the goals within the community initiative program?
Yeah, so when we look at marketing and outreach, we take a layered approach. And what I mean by that is that we will work to create multiple touch points for a resident in Auburn so that they are encouraged to go through this program. So on average, it takes, I think, 5 impressions for someone to actually move forward with anything, whether it's a product or a service. So what we do is I manage a team of program ambassadors. So they are trained to educate homeowners about these programs, help them schedule their assessment on the spot at an event. And then we have a really robust direct mail program that we do as well. So our marketing analyst, Gianna, is incredible. She knows so much about direct mail. It blows my mind. But she will work to, purchase lists from different segments based on a whole host of criteria. But we also find that our letters perform better when they actually come from the town itself. And because you have this program happening, that's an added incentive or, an added encouragement for Auburn residents. If they know that not only are they helping themselves and saving energy and money, but they're also helping their town, that definitely adds a little edge. So, for example, a normal direct mail piece, so just kind of our generic letter that goes out to anybody in Massachusetts, performs about 0.8 or 0.9% response. But if a letter actually comes from the community itself, we see 1.3, 1.4, sometimes as high as 1.5%, which is really huge when it comes to direct mail in really any industry. So when we send out those letters, we will also have that letter kind of laminated and at the table if we're at an event, right? So then we can say, hey, you may have received this letter in the mail. Well, this is what it pertains to, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Some of the best events that we work at are ones that, of course, have a sort of environmental or green or energy related theme to them. For example, Wellesley had a gas leaks forum that was put on by Sustainable Wellesley. There were probably 45 people there and 20 people signed up. So, we were only there for a couple hours, but we got a lot of folks to sign up, and it's because that's the mindset that they were already in. Farmers markets perform well, but that, of course, depends on the farmers market. Some perform better than others. It depends on how, dedicated those community members are. And then, of course, we will also work at retail locations. So we'll set up at a Stop and Shop or a YMCA or something like that to be there maybe once a week. And we're basically just building a presence, right, in the community so that people begin to recognize that this is something that's happening. This is something that people are doing. And a couple other pieces that we will do is we created a door hanger. So our specialists, when they're out at somebody's home, will actually, once they're done with the audit, they've helped that resident, they will then not canvas, but they'll put a door hanger on the neighbors on either side and then the house across the street. And then we also will ask residents, once they've completed their assessment, if they're willing to put a lawn sign out on their lawn. And it just says, we had a home energy assessment, call to have yours today. So very simple, very straightforward, but again, by having kind of lawn signs up around and door hangers, right, people are starting to recognize this brand for home energy assessments, and it becomes really powerful. So, yeah.
And something actually I thought of, just because I did the energy audit, but it was about 8 or 9 years ago, and clearly it's changed. Is there a window of time where it would be beneficial, or even if a homeowner was eligible, to have a second audit? Like, do you know what that?
Yeah. So folks are eligible to have their assessment done every 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And I would always encourage folks to have a second assessment, even if it was only 2 years ago, mostly because you've already paid for it, right? You're continuing to pay into this program, so you may as well take advantage. You never know what might change. Unfortunately, we don't change CFL light bulbs to LED light bulbs. So that is something to keep in mind, right? So if someone we only change halogens and incandescents. So if somebody had their assessment 2, 3, 4 years ago, they probably had all of their halogens and incandescents replaced with CFLs. And we just unfortunately would not be able to change those out. I'm hoping the program could change, in the next few years to provide for that, and to, if we've already moved to only providing LEDs, I could see that starting to happen. But I'll always encourage people to have it anyway, if they feel that it's worth it for them, if for the health and safety check alone.
That's something very interesting. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
I think that's something we could really push, because I know there's been a lot of people who have gone through it. Now, do we know if, I'd assume, for the grant, that if it was someone in town that had already gone through, that would still, and they participated and ended up using one of the services, it would still count towards the goals, right? Or at least we can check with.
I believe so.
Assuming someone had the work done, where you're saying if they got turned away because it just did it last year too?
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
figured we can just check with them just to make sure that,
Yeah, I mean, I
I
wouldn't
can't
know.
see why we wouldn't.
Yeah, so they will count, right, if it has been every 2 years. So we actually won't perform an audit on someone's home if they're not eligible to have one.
I see.
And mostly because as a company, we invoice out every assessment. So we would, not be paid for that assessment if they weren't eligible. But if say someone last year had their assessment, right? Assessment goals aren't the only goals on that National Grid goals table.
Right.
So say somebody had their assessment last year, they were given recommendations, but they didn't go through with them. Well, if they called us and said, hey, I had my assessment, we saw that they had their assessment, they could then, and they were like, I'd really like to go through with this work that was recommended, we could then do that work, and then whether it's air sealing, heating system work, or insulation, it would count toward one of those goals as well. So that's another aspect of the piece is, of course, we're working with a lot of people who have never had an assessment before, or it's been more than 2 or 3 years. But we are also looking for ways to reach out to those folks who, didn't go through with the recommended work for whatever reason, because that's where you see the huge savings in energy and money. So, it's important that folks take advantage of those bigger savings and, of course, bigger energy reductions. Any other questions?
So the only other thing would be, what are your thoughts for the town, and so what are kind of next steps from here?
Yeah, so we've already started doing some prospecting with regards to retail locations. So we find that we can do that fairly autonomously as a company, but when it comes to community events, I don't know if you have a farmer's market here or any other kinds of craft fairs or health and wellness fairs or anything like that, that it certainly helps to have the community members behind that and supporting us and advocating for us to send our staff there to sign folks up. Yeah.
So we at our last meeting came up with, before we knew that we'd be able to partner with you guys, a pseudo calendar of
Yep.
town events
Oh, great.
that we can share. So Matt
we
would probably
would love to get our hands on that.
get that over to you guys as far as in events that we vetted and thought would be a place where it would be worthy to to have either you or we were thinking we would be there to kind of promote the program. So we can definitely share that.
Yeah, and we actually really love when folks from the community, volunteer to do those events with us, depending on what the event is. That can also be really helpful, especially if you're really immersed in your community and you know a lot of people. That can really be helpful in terms of just adding these different layers of legitimacy to the program, because a lot of folks can think that this is too good to be true, mostly because we're saying no cost over and over again, and we're actually not allowed to say free because it's not, right? Folks have already paid for this. So that's generally how we try to start our conversation with people when we're at events, is just encouraging them to take advantage of something they've already paid for.
Great. So
Yeah.
we'll get you that list. I think
Perfect.
that'd be great. Separately from that, I think we'll have a couple items just updating the website and just putting stuff out there. Wonder if it makes sense to kind of direct to at least to the program or to
Sure.
you guys in regards to. We just wanted to get some stuff on our town website and
Yeah.
the town social media. So
Yeah. We do have an Auburn Saves specific page, right? So for this energy efficiency campaign. So not only did our, I could probably plug in this other computer to use the internet, but I can also just send it around, but a landing page for this program that's through our website. So you could always use that link. So, homeworksenergy.com/Auburn-saves. Very simple. It could be on any communications that you're putting out there that you'd be comfortable with. And of course our phone number. So people can call, 6 days a week from 7 in the morning till 8 at night, at any time in between, to schedule their appointments. We also are starting to pilot scheduling in field, so we can actually set appointments for folks while we're at the event with them, so they walk away from that event with their appointment ready to go, which just makes the process much easier for them and for us, of course. So,
great.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions from the committee? No?
I just wanted to add one thing. I'm going to be putting together a quarterly newsletter article that'll go at the request of the town manager. So any of the information you just mentioned, please send it over to me. I'll put it in the newsletter. Folks tend to read that, so
Yeah.
it'd be very helpful. And I know you can't say that these assessments are free, but what I can say is that if residents were interested in the program, someone would be doing an assessment, and it wouldn't cost them anything more than they've already paid. They're National Grid provider, so it's
Nice.
someone would come in and give you a complete assessment of your current situation, and you wouldn't have to hand them anything before they left that day. How's
Nothing
that?
at all.
Is that
Yeah.
better? All
That
right.
works perfectly.
Okay, so
Um,
and we certainly encourage it, and to date, even without advertising, I think it's a small number, but there's like 25 people who've already done home energy assessments this year. It's not a lot in comparison because it's almost 3 months worth of time, and we have some goals to hit. But this program, if folks get their energy assessments done, as we get credit for them, could help the town accrue grant funding in the amount of $32,000, if not more, if we exceed the goals. So very important to help the town receive funding for future energy initiatives by taking advantage of this program and the agreement that we have with Homeworks.
Yeah.
So next steps, if you don't mind sharing that with us, and I'll add it to the minutes and then send it out to the group. And then Matt, we can get that updated on all the areas we talked about. As well, we'll share with you kind of our bucket list of all the areas and the events that we thought would be, optimal to have someone there. And then as you start to slot them in, maybe we can check in periodically and see if, I know you're probably at a lot of these events, I know I go to some of them too, so even if we're just a presence there as a committee member to kind of support you guys, I think that would be fantastic, so.
Yeah, that
Great.
sounds great. Thank you so much.
Just want to add one other thing, just because it is a popular question that came up before, is does someone who wants their home energy assessment, do they have to use Homeworks in order to get
Excellent
eligibility? And the answer to that is no. Homeworks will be doing the advertising on behalf of the town, but if you know someone who does these things and you live in Auburn and you want to use them, you can. And we still get credit for that home energy assessment. So just so those folks may be interested as well.
That's a great point, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, the Mass Save website has a comprehensive list of all of the home performance contractors, which is what we're designated as on their website based on utility company. So whatever your utility company, you click on that, and of course here it's National Grid. So.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank
All right,
you.
Where to go? Thanks, Christina. All right, separate from that, I had staff updates, Matt. I didn't know if you had any.
Since our last meeting, I did submit our 2017 Green Community Grant application. Fingers crossed, but it has been submitted. We did close out our 2016 report just before that. For our LED streetlight conversion, kind of an update on that.
So just for the grant one, do you have an estimated time when you'll hear back?
I do not. Last year we heard back in July.
Okay.
So
TBD?
yeah, they may request more information somewhere between then and now. And the other at the streetlight conversion. I'm going to, nothing's been updated here really so far. It's a big question mark related to maintenance and the assumed maintenance costs that we would take onto this. But I'm going to be attending an information workshop on this between this meeting and our next meeting. And I'll provide an update on that to see if it makes sense for us to proceed.
And when we spoke last, at our last meeting, you were going to try to have a meeting with Mr. Roach and the town manager and head of the DPW. Did that happen, or is that still?
Mr. Roach wasn't able to attend, but we did have that meeting and discussed more of the details about the maintenance issues. I mean, they put an assumed maintenance cost on all the data, and that was just assuming like gear or contracting out someone to do it. But it also doesn't account for police detail and a handful of other things that just aren't considered. So once we get a chance to ask those questions at the workshop to see if it's going to be comprehensive, we'll know more by our next meeting.
Back. Excellent. Great. Any public comment, informal discussion? Any correspondence? All right, let's move to minutes for the 2/27 meeting. If everyone's had an opportunity to review, would someone like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes? A second? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes? Right, by unanimous vote, 4-0. The motion is approved to approve the 2/27 minutes.
I believe you have a 301.
Yes, I
Remember who was
have to
absent?
abstain. I was-
Oh,
You
you
were not
abstained.
here? All right.
Unfortunately.
So, and if we can just have a moment to, the next meeting is scheduled for, April 24th, I will be here for that. So, the next Energy Committee meeting will be Monday, April 24th, 5:30 here in the school meeting room at 5 West Street for the Auburn School Department. Take a look at that. All right, there being any other agenda items, would anybody like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
To adjourn.
Would anybody like to second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Right.
Aye. All right, by a vote of 4-0, the meeting will be adjourned at 6:12. Okay.